I will start a few thoughts which can trigger the discussion as we go along. And my first thought is from what Ratna said in the last session. It's been a very favorite subject of mine, which you touched upon, Ratna, which was how to build the spirit of entrepreneurship at a young age. There are several countries which are doing that. In fact, entrepreneurial thought starts from a fundamental premise of the freedom to think. Now that's the key word here. We all must have the freedom to think. If we have the freedom to think, and that freedom to think, ladies and gentlemen, comes mostly at a young age. Because if you, as a young person you are, you have the ability and the non-compulsions to think freely. And as you grow along the line, then you are compressed with so many social issues in your minds, and the good and the bad, and the competition with peers, and then all the other things come into your life, which kind of makes you a little bit claustrophobic, and the freedom gets restricted. So the very thought of freedom to think, which is to my mind the essence of an entrepreneurial process, starts very early, and it can be experimented in many ways if there are facilitators available. I mean, I've been to a Center for Entrepreneurship in California, and in that institute there is a hall, big hall, and they have lots of toys and games and stuff like that in the hall. And they are practicing entrepreneurial thoughts for 6-year-olds to about 12-year-olds. They start from age 6, then they go from 6 to 12, then they have 12 to 16, and they have 17 onwards, which is the normal process. And there they play a lot of games, and they just let the kids free. As ridiculous as they ask a kid to fly. So the innocent kid at the age of 6, what does he do? He just jumps and he falls. He cannot fly. But he's thinking why he could not fly. And his mind triggers on the ability, or only 6 years old, mind you. So the whole science behind the ability or the freedom to think generates a lot of such processes. We need trained facilitators for that. It's not too much of a classroom process. It's not so much of a work-oriented process. It's more the process of basic fundamental development of the child. And in India, I think we are in an exciting phase to do that, because we have large number of people who have chosen that path, and we can have many more. And it's proven now that how a one-generation industry like information technology, which is still one generation, just for getting into second generation, can create so much of wealth for the country. So there will be in future many such industries which can do that process. So we look forward to that kind of a spirit coming in. The second thought which I will transplant into the mind of the speakers is we have many of us here have ideas. And the ideas are plenty. But there is a science behind understanding the feasibility of an idea. And that's a management process. There are techniques and college education available. How do you make an idea feasible? And how do you test whether your idea is feasible? Because if the idea is not feasible, you can't go to the next step. You can't really create a product or a brand or revenue and go further on it. So the feasibility of ideas is again a management science process practiced in many countries and in many schools, which perhaps again needs training and facilitators to come in and do that. Some of us are doing that in our schools and trying to experiment with some of these processes, which again helps you to structure the idea into the growth process. So the sequencing is the freedom to think, then you come to the feasibility of the idea, and if it is feasible, we create products and services, and then we create brand, which is a very, very difficult subject, and everyone looks at brand building in their own way, and some of our speakers are experts and they will definitely throw some light on it. But the value creation exercise of a brand is perhaps fundamental to the process. And then of course, this brand which has been the willingness to pay for that brand should continuously increase. And that's where what we define as the word value creation means. So you create more value, thereby create the willingness to pay for that brand more and more in the minds of your consumers. So this is the whole process of innovation to brand building.